Morning everybody, it's Nick. I know, looking a bit like an airline pilot or a DJ, I'm not quite sure which with they're meant to be noise cancelling headphones, but I'm not sure they're so good, to be honest. Anyway, the point or the subject I'd like to talk about today is death and our approach as a society to death. I've been doing a lot of work and studying around death in the hope that I can try and support people as they go through that process, and as a society we can find a much healthier and more positive way to approach it. So a lot of what I observe is a great reluctance by people to talk about death, to know what to say, worrying about saying the wrong thing. And one of the biggest things that stuck in my head from some conversations is that when people are terminally ill, people feel that actually people may feel that having that upfront, truthful conversation that you're dying may well take away the patient's hope, and it's a very uncomfortable place that many people find themselves in. And they often sidestep the question, am I dying? How long do I have? Or distract the patient, or use humour as a way of not directly answering it. And I think what I'd like to offer is something that I'm calling, it's just something I've used as a way to express it, is compassionate truth. So I actually think it's really important, and it is a personal belief. I completely get the fact that death and grief is a very, very intimate personal thing for people, but that broadly as a society we probably need to be more embracing of it. And for me, I think this compassionate truth, which is being compassionately honest with somebody. Are you dying? Yes, you are. We're all dying. Some of us have less time than others. And actually none of us really know how much time we have. But am I dead now? No. Are you dead today? No. How long do I have? Whoever really knows, that's dreaded question that nobody ever really wants to be posed. And the honest answer is nobody ever really knows, because again, death is a very unique and intimate process. But certainly for people who have terminal diagnosis, they know that it's not likely going to be years and years and years. They know that whatever it is they're dealing with is fairly short term, whether that be days, weeks, months, 1, 2, 3 years, who knows. And the reason I think it's important to be able to have that compassionate but truthful conversation is that we have made an assumption. The minute we give somebody a terminal diagnosis, that's that you're dying, we think we're taking away their hope. And I wonder if we've got our perspective wrong on that, because we have to find a way to find hope in the here and now, and to be able to use the time we have. And if we don't have the honest conversations about the fact that we're dying, a person is going to die from a terminal illness, for example, then we're taking away the opportunity for that person to be able to resolve, ask, plan, make peace, process a whole stack of things. And that may leave them very fearful. It may certainly leave their families very fearful, because none of us are trained in this. It's like a tsunami that hits you when it comes along. Nobody talks to us about the stages of death. Nobody talks to us about what to expect. And the thing is, the longer we leave it, certainly my experience with loved ones that have had terminal illnesses, is that towards the end they retreat. They get too tired to have the important conversations, to resolve the conflicts, to ask the questions that have been scaring them, to make peace with what they need to make peace with, to express their wishes. And the opportunities are gone. And then what happens is we lose our loved ones, and we are left with many unanswered questions and regrets. And indeed, the person who's dying may not have had the best death they could have, simply because none of us were able to sit in that space that we haven't sat in before. So I really think it's important to have compassionate but honest conversations when people ask those questions. If somebody is dying, I don't think we should avoid the question. I think we should embrace that as an opportunity to think about what that person now needs in order to be able to come to the best position they can to make it the best death they can. Now, from a medical perspective, and I'm not a medical professional, obviously that's very much about pain management and alleviating symptoms. But death's about much more than the physical entity. There's an awful lot of emotional and mental processing that goes on, and we've got to make space for that. Psychologically safe space where we can sit in the discomfort with someone and allow them to speak their truth, allow them to share their fears, allow them to share their reflections and their regrets, facilitate and support where we can, help them to make the plans they want to plan for, help them to broker those very difficult and emotionally sensitive conversations, because all of the time we're doing that, we are actually helping the person who's dying have a more peaceful death, and we're also helping the families and the loved ones be able to go into their new phase, which will always have grief within it, in a less traumatic way. Because many of their regrets and questions, they may have had the opportunity to say things, to ask things, to apologise for things, to ensure they know the wishes of the person who's dying. So for me, compassionate truth is incredibly important. And I also think it's important that actually we embrace and have much more open conversations, not abstract conversations about, the death that happens to somebody over there, but open conversations, intimate conversations about our own deaths and our own wishes before they are upon us, so that when they are upon us, we are not so shocked, we are not so traumatised, we are not left in such a sea of unknowing. I think that's incredibly important. In actual fact, I would argue in the same way that we talk about sex education in our schools, I think we should be talking about the education of the process of death, because this is a fundamental part of life, and it causes so much trauma for everyone involved by simply avoiding these conversations, not being allowed to express our deepest fears and sorrows and regrets. And if you don't get the opportunity to do that when the time is coming, whether you like it or not, we're in a position, a terminally ill person is in a position where that is going to happen. I believe it does and can fundamentally affect the quality, if it is possible. It's difficult to search for the right words. Look, even me being open and involved in this area, I'm struggling to find the right words, I think, which just illustrates to society how difficult this conversation is. But unless we start having more of those conversations, and unless we start broadening it and finding the words and entering these places of discomfort, because we're also terrified of death, right, we won't get any better at it. So this is me trying to kick the conversation and saying I really think we need to learn how to have more compassionate, truthful conversations about the subjects that actually really scare us. Okay, I hope that helps. Lots of love. Take care.